Welcome back, everybody. We are here today on another episode of The Matt Show, where I try to find the coolest people that I can talk to at the intersection of tech, culture, business, and the arts. Today, I'm joined here by my good friend, Kenjrick Watson, a man of the culture. Kenjrick is a writer for the Playbook, breaking down the plays that move culture through sports, music, and strategy. Kenjrick also leads brand partnerships and community in Eventnoire, the largest Black-owned event discovery and digital media platform. Shout out to Jeff Osuji, who's been on the show before.
For sure.
And I'd like to say Kenjrick is a culture connoisseur. We're going to jump into a bunch of his thoughts from his writing on his blog, The Playbook, and other blog posts and tweets across the internet about where culture is and where culture is going. Welcome, Kenjrick, to The Matt Show.
Man, it is a pleasure, Matt. It's been a minute. I'm glad to be on the show, though. How are you, my good brother?
I'm good. How are you? What's any recent highlights in the life of Kenjrick?
Highlights, man. My younger sister, she just went off to college at Hampton University. So the real HU, nice. All the Howard folk, don't come at me. I don't want any smoke. And so, yeah, it's really just been the summer of, just family fun and just planning for what's next. The Playbook, that's something I'm really excited about and excited to share a little bit more about as well.
How did that come about? Like, what's the origin story behind you starting writing?
Yeah, writing in general or the Playbook?
Both.
Yeah, so I'll start with Playbook since that's the most recent. I have a sports background, played basketball throughout high school and a little bit of college. So just the idea of making a play is something that's always just been common to me. But even in terms of business, the idea of making a play is something that's tossed around like, hey, let's make a play, or this business deal could be a play. And so it's kind of a play on that idea, on kind of that concept. But more than anything, it's also just my love for music as well. One of the things that I know is that I feel like the art of sports and music are two things that bring people together like none other. You go to a sports game, you can have someone, and, not trying to get political or anything like that, but you can have someone who's a Trump supporter in one seat at a Bulls game and anti-Trump, guy or gal on another seat, and they're going to be cheering for the same team, drinking beer. So you really just see how sports really brings people together. And then music as well. Steve Stout, who's one of my inspirations.
Shout out to Steve Stout. Me too.
Yeah, for sure. He's one of my inspirations. And one of the things he said that really stuck to me is that where politics and religion ends, music begins. And so politics and religion, they can do kind of a good job of really uniting people, but it comes to a certain extent. And so once we reach that point, that's where we really see music really unite people like none other, whether it's people's love for Michael Jackson or in terms of sports, Michael Jordan. You can find people from all backgrounds really unifying under those two umbrellas. And so that's kind of where the Playbook came from, my love for sports and music, and also using that as a bridge to connect people, because anyone from any language, background, perspective, they can relate when it comes to music, and they can relate when it comes to sports. And in terms of writing, I've always been a writer. I was a communications major in college, and I've always just found myself writing and sharing my thoughts. I was always the kid. I always wanted to write what I wanted to write about. We know back in high school, you had the different topics that you could choose from. There were times where I got in trouble because I wanted to write about what I had, written about, the different ideas that I had had. I remember there were times in high school where I legit got an F because I wanted to write about a specific topic that was going on in culture at time. And I stood on it because I felt like it was something that needed to be said. And so,
but they gave you an F?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
but you still wrote about something like that you were genuinely interested.
It was fire too. But I also, during that time, I was kind of a little bit of a rebel. So I also took a joy of kind of doing things, just my way.
But it was just like completely unrelated to what you were supposed to write about?
Yeah, completely unrelated for sure. But I felt like it needed to be talked about. And so I think that's where kind of just, when I feel like there's something that's going on in culture, it's like, okay, I have to write about it.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Cool. Well, you made an interesting comparison that auto-tune got a lot of backlash in the past as something that takes away from authentic music, but slowly it became more normalized and ingrained into the fabric of hip-hop and music at large.
For sure.
And you compared that to people's concern about AI in music today. How do you feel about AI in hip-hop right now?
Yeah, for sure. I remember when I made that tweet, my thoughts may have changed, but I don't think they've changed that much. I think AI is a tool. I think AI kind of becomes an issue when it kind of tries to take the place of the creative as a whole. I think there's something beauty about the art of just making music at the core. And I remember when I made that tweet, it was a tweet, right?
This was part of your article.
As
I
part
just
of
kind of
okay,
like broke it down a little
gotcha.
bit.
When I made the article, I was writing it with a specific people group in mind, right? And I think this is something that's very important. As tech continues to evolve, there's always a demographic and a community of people that's always overlooked, right? So the black and brown student who loves music, who's a musician, they can play the drums, they can play the piano, but they go to a school where tech really isn't evolving, right? And so when it comes to just the advancement of music, that community, that music lover, that talented musician, they're usually left out of the conversation because they don't have access to the technology that's making music, just better in terms of an art form. And so when I was writing that, I was writing from the perspective of the black and brown child that's in that specific school, that's in that middle school, that's in that high school, who loves music, who wants to make music, the bucket boy that's on, just the expressway. They love music. They have an ear for it, but they'll never really get that opportunity because AI is taking the place of it. And so for me, I think it's something to always take into perspective when technology is changing. Usually there's a certain demographic that's left out of the equation. And when it comes to hip hop is birthed by black and brown individuals. And so I feel like when it comes to hip hop, black and brown individuals should always have a say so. But we don't, black and brown individuals don't run AI. We aren't the
Right.
leaders in tech. And so there's a gap there, and there's a possibly a missed opportunity in terms of reaching a certain demographic. So it's like, hey, if we're going to evolve in this space in terms of music, make sure access is coming along with it. Not only awareness, but access as well. And so that was kind of the heart behind just that specific piece.
So, do you think we're falling short in terms of how technology is evolving and making sure that the people behind culture actually have access to this technology?
Yeah, it's a obviously I don't know all and I can't see all. I think we're doing the best of job that we can with what we have in the music industry. The music industry is such a small industry, so when it comes to people just being overlooked, that's kind of a guarantee. It's something you can't really control. I think for me, hip hop is something that's very important for me, and I think when it comes to hip hop, one of the things that we've seen recently, right, is the lost art of an MC, the
Mm,
lost art of a writer, and I think that's honestly where a lot of our missed opportunities can come from with the arrival of AI, being able to have an AI rapper or an AI singer or having Chat GPT write your raps.
I saw Baby Chief do it. Said he used ChatGPT to write a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so because I'm a fan of Baby Chief Do
Me
It,
too.
and
Me too.
I'm very close with his manager,
Oh, really?
I'm actually going to
Huh.
combat what you said. He was just trolling.
Oh,
Baby
okay.
Chief
Okay.
Do It
Got it.
does
Got
not write his raps with Chat
it. Good.
GPT.
Good. Good. I didn't know that. Well, that's good to know.
Yeah,
That gives me.
yeah, for sure. And I think it's important to know Chief is like 15, so sometimes he just be yapping.
Yeah. Yeah. I would too if I was 15. You pointed out something else in hip hop that's shifting. That for age barriers with artists. That hip hop is normally considered a quote unquote young man sport, but that there are more examples of older artists putting out
Mm.
new music. We even have like grannies in China on TikTok putting out like tracks. And how do you feel about this idea of it having to make it as a young person in rap?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think a lot of people don't really know the start of where just being young in rap comes from. Honestly, I get my perspective right in terms of being young in rap. It comes from Jermaine Dupri. I feel like Jermaine Dupri was kind of that first entry to seeing young people make it in hip hop with Crisscross and then with Bow Wow. So that's kind of the start of how you saw just the young woman or just the young girl rapping, just within hip hop. And so in terms of today, I think, it's the norm. We're seeing, I mean, even Baby Chief, for an example, he's 15, 16, maybe 17 years old. We have Star Bands as well, who's based in
Yeah, I'm a fan
Chicago.
of Star Bands
Yeah,
too. Yeah.
she's real nice. She may be 15 or 16. And so I think just in terms of where hip hop is at, the door is wide open for those younger artists to come in and make a name for themselves. I think the only thing that I think about is hip hop is it's a long game. You have, if you're coming in at 15, Kendrick Lamar is 37. If you're coming in at
Mm.
15, you got 22 more years of work that you gotta put out. So you really got to be strategic in terms of how you want to leverage your opportunity, your influence, and overall who you want to be. And at some point, you'll have to matriculate from the 17-year-old rapper to the 25-year-old rapper, the 32-year-old rapper, the 37-year-old rapper. I feel like a lot of times, most most artists who started young, they never really matriculate to that next level. I think Herb was one of those individuals who did it really well,
Mm.
starting as Lil Herb with his Ball Like McCoby mixtape, Welcome to Phaserland, and then we saw him mature with PTSD. So I think that's a perfect example of a rapper who did matriculate as they got older in certain life experiences and their audiences grew with them. And ultimately, that's how you stay relevant, being able to grow with your core audience.
I remember exactly when Ballin' Like I'm Kobe came out, and everybody in like Kenwood was going
Yeah,
crazy about it, and just like waking up in the morning and sitting on the computer. I had spent the night at my friend's house, and it was like right there on like social media, so I had just like played it while he was still sleeping in his bed. That's like a core
for sure.
memory in my head. That's
For
crazy.
sure.
So what you said, culture is something that can't be quantified or put on an Excel sheet. It's like a secret sauce, and some people just have it and others don't. So what do you think makes somebody embody or represent culture, and what shows that you embody it or not?
Yeah, that has was that a tweet?
That was also a part of an article.
Really? So,
Yeah.
so one of the things that I will say whenever I do write an article, it's usually come from a series of tweets. So sometimes I'll use Twitter as like a drawing board
Oh,
and I'll
really?
just throw out different quotes. And if I gain some traction on those quotes, on those tweets, I'm like, okay, how can I put these tweets together and turn it to a larger body of work? But when it comes to culture, I think culture just really speaks to not necessarily your interests, but your values, things that you hold near and dear to your heart, to your mind, whether it's your ethics, your morals, just how you move within friendships and family. And, everything has a culture in terms of food. Popeyes has a culture, Chick-fil-A has a culture. Two different cultures, but we love it because of those cultures. If I go to Popeyes and it's not kind of ghetto, I probably don't want it. But if I go to Chick-fil-A and it's super duper nice, I'm like, okay, this is probably going to be a Chick-fil-A that I really want
Got
access
it,
to.
got it.
100%. And so, yeah, I think culture just really speaks to the values and things that people remember you for.
Speaking of one of your most viral tweets, you said uh, you're a fan of the WNBA and that Angel Reese is the most famous athlete in Chicago right now, but that you feel Chicago hasn't added much to her stardom. And why is that? I personally don't know much about like sports in general,
For sure.
and so it would be cool for you to educate me a little bit on that, like the behind that tweet. And then a lot of people like, did they go at you for that in the comments? And
Yeah, for sure. So I've had a lot of viral tweets during my time on Twitter. The one with Angel Reese probably gained the most traction the quickest, and I probably got the most amount of random DMs just from random folks. But when I had made that specific tweet, that was during her rookie year, and point blank, Angel Reese is the most famous athlete in the WNBA, and her stardom transcends the basketball court. It transcends culture overall. Little girls want to be like Angel Reese. They want to be the Barbie. They remember the handshake that she did in Iowa during Women's March Madness as well. And so the WNBA, they were looking for that star that embodies culture. They've always had great athletes, but they haven't had great stars. The NBA has always had great stars and I think a great example of this is Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson was cold on the court, but we also loved Allen Iverson because of his braids off the court, his big jerseys, his big white tees, the big chains as well. So it just made him just very relatable to the point where the average person, whether they knew about basketball or not, could relate to AI, could relate to Allen Iverson. And I think the same goes for Angel Reese. Even if she stops hooping, people want to know what she's wearing. She's at the Met Gala for a reason. There's no other WNBA player that we're checking for in that regard, and I think that says something. And Chicago specifically, and I got a lot of flack from those in Chicago. When I think about it, there's not another bigger star in Chicago other than Angel Reese. You may have some high level profile people who are good at their sport, like Caleb Williams, but we don't really care what Caleb Williams is doing on the day to day. We don't
mm,
care what he's wearing. We don't care what he tweets. We don't care what he puts on IG unless it's something Chicago related. if Angel Reese makes any type of post, it's going to be on the shade rooms. The blogs are going to pick it up. She has the podcast with, just the bigger stars. And so I think for Chicago, we've been missing that cultural superstar. We've had great athletes for sure, but we haven't had a cultural star in quite a long time. And I think the last one was probably Derrick Rose, which was around
Mm-hmm.
10 years ago. And so Angel Reese gives us the opportunity to embrace someone because she's a rookie. She's on a rookie contract. She could leave. We don't want Angel Reese to leave. And so we have to treat her well and make her feel like that she's in home and say like, hey, you can be the biggest star here in Chicago. And I think that all of the media needs to get behind it. All of the fans need to get behind it and say like, hey, this is our next star. She's only in her second year in the league and she's continuing to break records, put girls, in the basket. She can really, really hoop, and she also does it with grace and excellence. At the same time, it's something we've never seen before as well. So we have the opportunity to do something great with a cultural superstar that we haven't had in a minute. I know other teams, other markets, New York, LA, they wish they had an Angel Reese, but there's this weird thing where it's like Chicago birthed so many superstars, and we always let them go and they go
Hmm.
elsewhere.
Why do
We
you think that happens?
Yeah, I mean, this is beyond my age. I mean, we see it all the time. If just talking like a black person, I think just Chicago, we just think that everything is like just doing too much and just being over the top.
Uh-huh.
I think in Chicago, we take pride in not being like goofy or just being outlandish or anything
Uh-huh.
like that. And so in Chicago, you can be a celebrity. I remember when Usher was here during his concert, and he was just chilling at Millennium Park, and there was no paparazzi.
Really?
There weren't people. Did you know?
No, I did not.
Exactly. He was just chilling, and this is Usher, Confessions Usher, and he was just walking, and like one person got a picture or video
Dun,
of
dun,
him
dun, dun.
on. You know the song?
Yeah, yeah.
Sing it.
No,
No, I'm just
not-
joking. I'm just joking. And so, for an example, it's like we treat celebrities like they're regular people. When
Mhm.
celebrities, they kind of want to feel like celebrities, so they go to New York where their ego can be stroked. They go to LA, they go to Atlanta, where it's like, oh, that's so and so. As so in Chicago, it's like, oh, that's just them. And so I think that's a small part of it, but it's something that I do notice though, where we birth these stars and then they leave and they never really return. But whether it's sports, music, or even just government and things like that, it's an interesting thing about Chicago.
Speaking of government, you went to the new Obama building, right?
I did,
You got
I
a like
did.
tour of it, right?
Yes, I got a private exclusive tour of the Obama Presidential Center, courtesy of my good friend Chris Crater, who works for the Obama Foundation with my brother's keeper. The Presidential Center is on 19 acres. It's right on the east side of Chicago. It has a full court NBA facility. It has a garden where you can not only plant, your flowers and such, but you can also pick your flowers, pick your fruit, things like that as well.
Oh,
There
interesting.
are food courts as well that I think that's really really neat. There's a studio, a creative studio, a large massive auditorium that's geared strictly for the creatives within that neighborhood. There's a bike trail. There's a pond in the wintertime. Um, Michelle Obama, she wanted kids to have access to know what it's like to go sledding. So there's a big hill.
Oh, really?
There's a
Huh.
big hill in that area for when the snow does come, those kids can go sledding. So it's really a community. And then that large building that you see, that's the library where they recreated the Oval Office. I mean, I don't know if I'm supposed to share that, but they recreated the Oval Office, which is really, really nice. All things President Obama related, they have there. He has his own specific meeting room. They have different lounges where you can come and kick it. I think the coolest part about the Obama Library that's a part of just the entire center as a whole is that when you go to the top floor, which is kind of like their rooftop area, you can only see the south and west sides of the city. As to where, like, when we think of Chicago, we always want to see what's going on in specifically West Loop or up north and the skyline. It was President Obama's point to say, like, no, Chicago is great all around. We're great, not only because of downtown, but because of the south side and the west side as well. So
Hmm.
when you are on their rooftop, you can only see the south and west sides of the city.
Interesting.
You can't really see that downtown skyline view. Because that's cliche. Everyone wants to see that. We need to see more aspects of Chicago because that's what truly makes Chicago unique,
Huh, making that intentional is very interesting.
for sure.
Because normally you just like, oh, what the default view of Chicago is
For sure.
the skyline.
And I think that's something that's really important that people may not know. All of the construction, all of the building that you see, it's all done by Black and brown individuals. And not only Black and brown, but
Interesting.
there are a lot of women working that facility doing like a lot of the construction stuff. So there are women on tractors and big building blocks and things
Huh.
like that. So
Forklifts and
100%, 100%. And so we see President Obama, just how intentional he was in terms of even just economic development and giving people opportunities and knowing that if you come from this community, you can do this too as well, whether you're Black, white, Hispanic, whether you're male or female. You see that represented in terms of just the build out of the entire center.
Another thing you said is in building brand equity, you tap into culture not by forcing a message, but by aligning with someone who is the message.
For sure.
I thought that was dope. Can you elaborate?
So it's always, this is definitely from an article. Is this from the Anthony Edwards one?
Maybe.
I think it was from the Anthony Edwards one. Yeah, I think as consumers, we're not dumb. We're not slow. It's like,
Maybe sometimes.
yes,
I think I'm
sometimes.
slow sometimes.
It's like, let's say, do you know who Charles Barkley is?
that sounds so familiar, but
He's a basketball player, but he's bald. Imagine a hair care company using a bald guy to promote their brand. Like, yes, Charles Barkley, he's an NBA Hall of Famer, but he don't got no hair. So it's just not believable. Jay-Z had an interview with Elliott Wilson, and Jay-Z has done a lot of work with Puma.
maybe if they gave him hair.
Right.
You ever see those? What's the football player, the white football player that you always see on the billboards?
Brett Favre?
That he has hair and then he doesn't have hair and then suddenly he has hair.
I'm
Like
not
a hair
familiar.
transplant ad.
I'm not familiar.
Oh damn, I forget what his name.
Uh,
Yeah.
Brian Urlacher.
Yeah.
He is
Vic knows what
bald.
I'm
That is
talking
true.
about.
That is true.
He doesn't have hair and then he has hair and I'm like, oh man,
So
maybe
it's
I
not,
need a hair transplant.
Yeah, but I think we connect with those who relate to us, and Brian Urlacher would probably be a great example. I do want to pivot though. Jay-Z actually did something interesting. He had a conversation with Elliott Wilson, and Jay-Z has done the work with Puma before, and he said, Jay, we know that you don't do work with Puma. Why do we always see you wearing Nikes and Jordans? And pretty much his response was, if all I wore were Pumas, all of my fans would know that that was cap, because they know that Jay-Z loves Jordans, Jay-Z loves Nikes, Jay-Z loves Timbs. So it's just inauthentic for Jay-Z just to walk around with Pumas everywhere that you go. It's the fact that he chooses to wear Pumas is what makes it unique. He's not just doing it just to check it off of a list. He's doing it because I actually rock Pumas. But some days I'm going to rock some Nikes. I'm going to rock some Timbs. I'm going to rock some Jordans. But I'm also rock some Pumas because I actually like the shoe. And so being able to align with someone who embodies what you're trying to present, I think is really important. I think that's a step that we can take when it comes to marketing campaigns, advertising. Adidas has done a great job with this as well, with Anthony Edwards, letting Ant-Man be Ant-Man, having that Atlanta swagger and really just embracing it. He has this funny clip where he's actually doing a tour in China, and someone was speaking to him, and he was like, "Ni hao, what's happening?" But that's him. He's not switching up. He's not code switching, and they're able to make that work because the person aligns with the message, and the message aligns with the brand. And so you've been able to check off with every list, but it takes time to find that individual, to find that representative, to find that marketer who fits with what you're trying to communicate.
I heard Dave Chappelle once say that I've been in paid partnerships with both Pepsi and Coke. And honestly, I can't taste the difference, but Pepsi paid me the most recently, so it tastes better.
Yeah, exactly.
And so,
He's
like,
telling you, right? And it's like as brands, that works, but we could do better though. We could do better because there are some legit Pepsi and Coca-Cola lovers out there. And they can tell you the difference
Yeah,
for sure. But it takes time, and it also depends on how much do you care about reaching this community.
Do you feel like you could taste the difference between Coke and Pepsi?
I'm not a pop drinker.
Oh, really?
I'm not the pop drinker.
That's good. That's good for your health.
Good for the health and skin. Hopefully the skin is looking pretty decent. so hope so. But yeah, not the pop drinker though.
Interesting. Have you always not been a pop drinker, or?
Yes, as long as I know, I don't remember ever pop being a norm. I would say 95% of the time I'm drinking water. The other
That's good. That's
time,
good.
if I'm sick, I'll drink some orange juice or some apple juice. I didn't have my first taste of alcohol until I think 2 years ago.
Oh wow.
Never been drunk before, anything like that. So pretty much just water for the most part, purified water. I don't do spring water, but if you are a spring water brand that wants to partner, I'll drink your spring water though.
There you go. Any spring water brands out there?
All right, but
Reach
yeah,
out to Kendrick.
water for the most part though.
You talked about how there's art, standalone works, movies, music, etc., and then it shifts into a cultural force when it becomes a gathering, an opportunity to experience art collectively. Are there any moments in your life that stand out when an album or a film becomes like a big shared experience and how that plays out?
Yeah, for sure. I think, and willing to argue about this, I think the greatest music album rollout in music history is, and this guy, he's going through wherever he's going through, but it's Kanye West and his Donda
Mm,
era. We've never seen another artist sell out stadiums and for a listening party and not say a word. During those Donda stadium shows, Kanye never grabbed the mic. He never rapped. He never gave a performance. He did push-ups on the side of a twin-size mattress, and he was selling out the stadium. He was just flying in the sky, allowing people to enjoy this unreleased music, the music that wasn't actually finished, the album wasn't out, and people were attending. Everyone was dressed in all black, like it was a vibe. He did, I think, 3 shows here in the States, 2 in Atlanta, 1 in Chicago, sold out within minutes. And those were individuals, and this is a stadium, not an arena. 40, 50,000 individuals gathering for a listening party with music that's not even finished. Tracks that didn't have the right verses. But because we wanted to be a part of something special and the music sounded somewhat decent, we wanted to be part of it. And in my opinion, I think Kanye's Donda rollout was one of the greatest rollouts that we had ever seen, for
I
sure.
remember that. You were there, right?
I went to the funny story. I went to the Atlanta one and the Chicago one.
Oh wow.
When I went to the Atlanta one, I was in Atlanta for maybe 36 hours. I came back to Chicago. I think a day after that, he dropped the Chicago date. And I was like, well, got to go to the Chicago one too. And so I was able to see the Donda show twice.
How was it?
It was probably one of the best concert experiences I'd ever had because everyone's there for the experience.
Mm-hmm.
Like no one's like, you're not there listening to Kanye's old classics. It's literally just his new music, but he's also inviting you into the process because the music isn't done. And so when he did the first Donda show in Atlanta, the music that he played was so different by the time he got to Chicago because he's mixing and mastering the album as it's going. And so for me as a fan who went to the first Atlanta show, the third Chicago show was completely different. And as a fan, I was like, man, I've seen this album grow within time. And so I would say that's an experience that really stuck to me for sure.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to Kanye. I mean, he's going through what he's going through, but I still wish the best for him. I hope.
Praying for the brother. Greatest artist of all time in my opinion.
Really?
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Wow.
You wanna know why?
Why? Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, something I love to talk about. So I think when it comes with Kanye, when it comes to just artistry, it surpasses music. Right? So like most people think, oh, Michael's the greatest or Beyonce's the greatest, which I definitely love Beyonce. But when you think of Michael, you think of singing and a little bit of dancing. When you think of Beyonce, you think of singing, right? When you think of Kanye, you think of music. And then in terms of music, you got the backpack raps, you got gospel, you got his new stuff, right? But then you also got production in terms of producing. That's another level of artistry. Then you got fashion. That's another level of artistry that we've never seen. Yeezy was a $1 billion black-owned brand. All of the rap artists who had clothing brands from the past, Rockefeller, Fat Farm, Anichi, Fubu, they never really reached billionaire status. They were more just for the common folk. The Yeezy brand kind of became a luxury item. The Yeezy shoes, the hoodies and all that. We haven't really seen that before in terms of clothing. And so Kanye checks that list as well. Also in terms of being controversial, he's probably the most, I think this is different now, but for the longest, he was probably the most uncancelable person you can probably ever meet. when he did the whole slavery is a choice, the MAGA Trump hat, he became a billionaire right after that.
Really?
Yeah, and so there aren't a lot of artists who are really even able to express themselves in that way due to the fear of what other people may say. The fact that Kanye isn't scared of that, I think that also brings him into the conversation because he's able to tap into another level within himself that most people are afraid to tap into. And so he checks the box, he checks the list of so many different forms of art. That's where I put him as number one.
I actually think about Kanye a lot, and I think about how I want to see him
Yeah,
redeem himself publicly.
yeah, for sure.
And
Personally, I think that this is probably a little bit too late now. I think he's definitely crossed the line because we would love to see a Kanye Super Bowl halftime show. I think that'll probably be one of the greatest Super Bowl halftime shows we'll ever see. But I think, freedom. I heard Charlemagne say this: you can have freedom of speech, but freedom of speech isn't free.
yeah,
There are consequences that can come with just your freedom of speech. And so I think Kanye is kind of experiencing that now. But last time I checked, he's still worth a few hundred million. So I think he's
I
cool.
think he's okay. Yeah. You said when you don't chase a cultural moment, you can become a cultural moment, and that the most of the more powerful cultural events are rooted in authenticity and core expression. And yet we live in a world all the time where people are chasing clout, trying to engineer virality. And I mean, taking advantages of trends and chasing moments might be good for viral views and social media strategy, but what do you think is like that line between chasing cultural relevance versus like becoming cultural relevance?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because ultimately it comes down to the consumer. As a consumer, we don't mind individuals chasing just random viral moments. I think a moment that I think about, do you remember the guy Ashton Hall when he would wake up with the bucket of ice and he was like dumping his head in the water and then he was like running. Do you all remember that at all? It was just some very weird viral moment that he was chasing. There was nothing complex about it. It was just a viral moment, and people
Mm-hmm.
were recreating it, and we eat it up as consumers. So it's not necessarily a bad thing all the time. I think a perspective I would kind of want to add to that, and I have this is another Jay Z quote. One of the things that Jay Z said was, "Do you want to be a trend or do you want to be Ralph Lauren? Trends come and go, but as we know, Ralph Lauren Polo is forever, right? And so you got some individuals who are okay with just getting that next hot moment and that's it. You got other folks who may want to play the long game and they want to chase Ralph Lauren status and be on the level of a Polo, a Gucci, where no matter what trends are going on, they always gonna be around.
You said whether it's an event, a networking ecosystem, a workplace, a foreign country, we as individuals or brands often step into unfamiliar cultural environments and seek to have belonging or influence into it. So, like, how does someone step into an unfamiliar scene with authenticity and form relationships that foster inclusivity?
Yeah, for sure. So I think it all starts with self, right? One of the reasons why I'm able to show up as my authentic self is because one, I know who I am and I know what I stand for. I know what my values are. I know what boundaries that I live by. I know my moral code, my ethic. And so knowing who I am, it gives me a certain level of confidence to step into any room and be completely Kendrick Watson to the core. You can show up as your authentic self, but if you don't know what yourself is, you kind of gonna go any and every way. And so I think one is knowing yourself, spending that time with yourself, getting to know yourself, and really just loving yourself. When you love yourself, you go into any room confident, and people can feel that energy. I think when you and I first met, I think it was at Workbox.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
it was at Workbox, and I think we were talking about music. If not, we were talking about Kanye,
Yeah.
and which is so interesting. But I think one of the things that make you unique, Matt, is that everywhere that you go, we know that nonstop is on full display. We know that Matt is going to embody that energy. He's going to be himself. He's going to walk up to someone and say, "Hey, how are you? How'd you find out about this place? What do you do? What do you do for fun?" That comes from an inner working that you've done, saying like, "Hey, this is who I am, and this is who I'm going to be." And the people who rock with it, they're going to rock with it. The people who don't, they won't. But as we know, There's room for everyone. There's an
Thank you.
audience.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I think that's what makes you unique. I think what people don't realize is being genuine is a lost art. One of the things I told my little sister before she went off to college is,
Why so?
yeah, I think it's so easy to replicate others, and it's very easy to kind of hide what's going on the inside of you, just within yourself, and not necessarily, just doing the work. And so it takes heart to it really takes a lot to be able to look within yourself, see what's wrong, see what's right, fix it, constantly being in the state of just reflection. And so it takes a lot of work to figure out who you are and then accept who you are. It's a lot easier to just take on a manufactured version of someone else. But I would say being genuine is it's a skill set that many aim to have, but it takes a lot of guts and confidence to have. And I think alcohol is one of those examples. As you know, I'm out, and I'm out late all the time. And people never believe, Kendrick, you're out here sober? And I'm like, yeah, this is just me. I'm here because I want to be here. I'm happy. I like what's going on. I kind of don't need a drink to give me a certain level of confidence because I already embody it.
Hmm. Why do you think it's easier to be culturally manufactured?
Yeah, it takes less work. Like legit, it takes less work. If I just have to talk a certain way, post a certain way, it's like, okay, I just got to do what that person is doing. But the thing is, they got their own lane, they have their own calling, and you're missing out on your calling, your lane, because you're trying to replicate what someone else is doing. It's really just a shortcut. That's all. And in life, we know if you start fast, you'll end fast. If you take the shortcut, you'll be right back, to where you started
Mm-hmm.
with yourself, which is a scary place for people to be. One of the things I've realized is that most people don't know how to be with themselves, which is why they're always out. They're always distracted because it takes a lot to just sit within your own thoughts, being able to master your own thoughts, your own emotions, um, and just life without you and life around you, and building an ecosystem around you that you're comfortable with, and really just focusing on that inner world. I think people overlook that inner world that's on the inside of us, but not knowing that the inner world kind of produces everything that goes on the outside.
You were telling me that the playbook is kind of like your baby right now,
For
no?
sure. Yep.
Where do you think it's headed? What are you working on with it right now?
Yeah, for sure. So long term, I want to combine media and events. I think God has put me in a great position in terms of giving me access to some amazing individuals who have a story, they have insight. And for me, a quote that's really stuck to me is, "You can't be what you can't see." And so if I can create an atmosphere, an environment for people to see someone that they wouldn't normally have access to, I'm going to do what I can to create that access, to create that environment, to spark inspiration, to spark community, but centered around the art of sports and the art of music. And so have some dope people lined up that I think people will love to hear speak and chat a little bit more just in terms of their personal story and things that they're working on in the sports space, in the music space. But I'm sure that there will be times where we'll take some people who are outside of those industries as well. But it's all about exposure. And honestly, this is also just my form of giving back as well, because I've been blessed to have great mentors within my life. Whether those were mentors that people I knew or didn't know, I want to give people that same opportunity. But at the end of the day, is what they make of it.
Cool. Are there any rising Chicago artists that have your attention right now?
Baby Chief, do it. Baby Chief, do it for sure.
Tell me more about how you like met his manager and your background, like discovering him personally and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So honestly, I would say I'm in the blessed position because I got a younger brother, Kenyon, and I have two younger siblings, Lala and Bailey. My younger brother's 24, but Lala is 17 and Bailey is 11. And we hang out often and we all love music. I follow them on social media. So I see the things that they post, I see the things that they repost. And so I can't not help but to catch on in terms of what they're listening to. There are times I'm talking to my younger sister, I'm like, yo, create me a playlist of like what you've been listening to the most. And so Baby Chief would be on there, Star Bands, Chucky, um, there's some other guys that Von off 1700, just folks that they listen to. It really keeps me current.
You stay tapped in with what's
100%. I stay around it. And I actually had a conversation about this the other day. Someone asked me, what can you do, like, if you don't have those younger siblings, right? And I feel like I'm just at a privileged point of view in general. But they asked, in terms of rap, what can you do to kind of stay ahead to know who's next? And honestly, my response was, listen to what the athletes are playing in the locker room. Listen to what they're listening to before games. They're listening to what's next. When I was in high school in 2014, 15, 16, we was listening to Dirk. We was listening to Ball Like I'm Kobe. That was the basketball music during that. We was listening to Lil Reese. And now 10, 12, 15 years later, these are the prominent artists that we're listening to today. And I think that goes back to that connection of sports and music, specifically basketball and hip hop. If you want to know in terms of rap what people are listening to and who's up and coming, listen to what the athletes are listening to, specifically those that are in high school and college, because they're listening to rap a lot more than the average person because they constantly have to be motivated. They constantly need that rush to get inspired. The rap does it. And so they're always looking for new rap music, new joints that they can get lit to, turn to, get them ready for the game.
Wow, I blew through all my questions really fast.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Hopefully that's a good thing.
No, it's good. I think we got a solid interview so far. Is there anything I haven't touched on that you want to talk about?
No, I would love to know more from you, Matt. I know we shared before this, but what are some of your big goals in terms of the Matt Show? I know you rebranded from the Intersection to the Matt Show. In a perfect world, what are some of those big goals that you're looking to accomplish for the Matt Show?
That's a great question. I don't know. I just want to interview the best people that I can and grow the show as quickly as possible. And I want to get back into stand-up. That's another thing that's big on my mind right now.
I had the pleasure of attending your stand-up show at Fortune House on Cottage Grove. It was a really, really great time. I think you should definitely do more for sure. And I think that's another aspect of what makes you very unique, Matt, is your ability to take a risk. Those who have high confidence are those who take a risk. They don't really care what people think. So the fact that you're starting your podcast, you're meeting people, you're building relationships, you're doing stand-up comedy, most would be fearful, right? But the fact that you're able to step out and be confident and try different things, I honestly think that that's the recipe for success. So I'm sure that there's a lot of success that's headed your way.
I hope so. I'm trying to get back into being confident, putting myself out there again, and it's been taking some time. It's been taking some months since some setbacks, but I'm slowly getting back there. So I'm slowly getting back into the groove of feeling like myself again.
Yeah, for sure. But I think, it's really just about giving yourself grace. I think the cool part is that we don't want our primes, right, to be at 24, 25, 26, 27 years old. We want our prime to be when we're 45, we're 50. I was at a conference in Vegas, and one of the things they said was, like, I think 80% of the world's wealth is held by individuals 65 years and older.
Makes sense, yeah.
So for us who are in our mid-20s, we got 40 more years of being able to experiment, to take risks, to have mess-ups. And so for me, reminding myself of that, it kind of takes the anxiety away of thinking like, okay, I have to have everything figured out right now. So yeah, I can have some stuff figured out, but if I can fail as much as I can, as soon as I can, it's only going to give me the playbook, pun intended, to know what to do, going forward. And so honestly, I think you're right where you need to be, and you're a hustler. If there's one thing I know about you, Matt, you're non-stopping. You always gonna go.
Thanks, Kenjrick.
No,
well, thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
It's a pleasure.
And,
it's a pleasure.
This was a great time.
Of course. If you all can, follow me on Instagram.
Yeah, please shout out anything.
Yeah, I got so many shout outs. Follow me on Instagram at Kenjrick Watson. Pretty easy to find. KenJrick. That's my personal. And then from there, you can find all things Playbook at the Playbook HQ, where I have my different newsletters, blog posts, now podcast interviews, which would be really, really cool. And then some of the events that we have going on in the future. And ultimately, shout out to Matt. Shout out to the Matt Show.
Thank you so much, Kenjrick.
Now, of course, appreciate you, brother.
Woo.